The Umpire Inspire podcast is all about the stories, all about the journeys, and all about the heart of being an umpire. I'm your host, Jason Becker. Well, hi folks, Jason here. Thank you so much for tuning in today to the Umpire Inspire podcast. On this show, we celebrate extraordinary and ordinary umpires from all around the world who inspire us. And you can hear past episodes and find out much more at umpireinspire.com. And if you're enjoying this show, I'd be really grateful if you would leave a brief and honest review over at Apple Podcasts so other umpires can find the show and hear from our great guests. And speaking of great guests, today I'm visiting with Dan Campagnolo from California, USA. High school umpire, community college umpire, Little League umpire, umpire trainer, bringer of wisdom, skilled storyteller, and a gentleman who, over a long career, has inspired many, many umpires. And today, that includes yours truly. I love listening to the veteran guys. I really do. And I came away from this conversation with Dan just feeling great and eager to serve, both on the field and also among the umpires who come into my own life. I hope maybe Dan will have that same effect on you. Please enjoy my conversation with Dan Campagnolo. Dan, welcome to the Umpire Inspire podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Jason. This will be fun.
It will be fun. Dan, I'm looking at your resume here. It is lengthy, and which leads me to believe that we have a lot of good stuff to talk about. So this is going to be a lot of fun. My first question for you, Dan, before I ask you to just sort of introduce yourself, is you're a Little League umpire, you're a high school umpire, you're a college umpire. Is picking between the three like picking your favorite kid?
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah. It's tough because you have a couple of kids. What are you going to pick? It bases back down to Little League, but still, I love the high school, and I did the college for 8 years, so I haven't done college the last couple of years.
Well, we have a lot to talk about with all three of those levels of play, Dan. So sure. Before we get there, hey, just introduce yourself and tell us who you are, a little bit about your umpiring background, and what you're up to right now.
I'm Dan Campagnolo, and I just turned 70 years old yesterday.
Hey, congrats, pal.
It's all good, yeah. All healthy, so that's good. I'm a retired high school educator. I retired in 2012. In fact, I always tell people 2012 was the best year of my entire life. Number one is it was our 40th anniversary for my wife and I. And number two, it was the retirement of my high school, 39 years as a high school educator career. And number three, the Little League World Series. And I tell people, as long as my wife's not around, the way I just told them to was not necessarily the importance of those events.
She understands.
Yeah. So
that's a heck of a year, Dan.
Going back to the beginning of umpiring, I think I started just like probably 95% of us. I coached Little League baseball when my kid was starting T-ball and stayed a manager for many years, up through majors. In fact, when I got a major team, they made us, myself as a manager and the coach, umpire into the farm leagues. And while I was umpiring some games, I told myself, I really like this part. I do like it. I'll probably need to get some training. But when my kids are all done with baseball, youth baseball, and they've gone as far as they want to go, and I'm done coaching and managing, I'm going to give back. I'm going to give back to Little League as a volunteer umpire and see where that takes me from there. And it did. I umpired for many years, and I still do for Little League. And I got into the high school umpiring. I've been doing that, 15, 18 years. And into the college level, not the D1 level, although I did some teams on preseason games. But nevertheless, the college level, what they call community college, JC college, some people call it.
Sure.
And enjoy all of them. Fantastic. They are different levels, but nevertheless, they're all fun.
2012, I can't get over that. What a year. And we're certainly going to get back to that in some detail later, Dan, because you had quite a summer. I know. I'd like to ask you, Dan, to start your story today in the middle chapters. And let's go back to the beginning of you working high school. At that time, you had already been a Little League umpire for many years.
Yes.
You know, I'm asking because I'm in a very similar spot. I did my very first year of high school baseball last year after being Little League only for many years. And I loved it, by the way, absolutely loved it. And I'm looking forward to getting back out on that field. What was the transition like for you? What made you decide to think about pursuing high school? And what was it like for you those first few years?
I think I went to my first high school clinic in '03. So that's probably when I started that year, 2003. So I think one of my umpire friends that I'd been doing Little League for years, and he got into the high school group a year or two before. He said, Dan, you belong here. This is fun. This is great. So I went to the clinic, and they liked me, and they accepted me. And that first year of high school baseball, it was mostly the JV teams. Some of them were one man,
sure,
you know, and the ones that were two man were fun. But I was evaluated. I know I was by the organizers of the group and the mentors, and they watched me, and they liked me. They liked what they saw, and before you know it, I was doing some varsity games, not the highest level ones, but I was doing some varsity games that very first year. And I might be one of the only high school umpires in our group that the very first rookie year, I actually got a CCS Central Coast Section playoff game on the bases. Yeah, wow. That was unreal. Yeah, and I've been with them ever since. Same group. I love working with these guys. They're good umpires. We do good training. And I'm one of the instructors now. I've been for probably the last 10 years. But we do a lot of training, and we do a lot of meetings. We talk about a lot of things. I do presentations at the meetings. And it's just fun to work with these guys. And going to different high schools in our Bay Area on any given day. I probably do 3 or 4 high school games a week during the season. I like it.
I hear you. And in my first year, I started in this very similar way, working JV games. I was fortunate. I always had a partner, had a great time, and was just really taken aback and surprised by the quality of the coaches and the players. I guess I hadn't quite thought it through just yet, but I was so pleasantly surprised at just the attitudes, the knowledge of the game, the willingness to do it the right way, so to speak, in regards to how to treat an umpire, how to communicate with us. Did you find that as well where you were working?
Yes.
That's good.
The high school players, there's more respect for the game.
Yeah.
And they are better. The catchers are a whole lot better.
Yes.
In fact, I remember the story. I was doing a West Catholic playoff game at Santa Clara University is where they use the Schott Stadium.
Very nice.
Where they use that field. Beautiful field. Nice venue. And I'm doing the plate, and it's a 3-man crew. And I remember just feeling so good as I walked up towards the plate meeting and had the plate meeting. And after the second pitch, I said, whoa, I forgot to put on my shin guards.
Oh, no.
And my catcher, who knew me anyway from the schools, because I was doing some of the higher levels at that time. Don't worry, Dan, I got you covered. And I said, yeah, until he fouls one off. But nevertheless, and of course, the first batter got on base and went through 5 batters to get the 3 outs. And after those 3 outs, I made a beeline. Luckily, the umpire's dressing room was right off third base side there, next to the dugout. And I took my third base umpire his name was Dan also. Says, Dan, come with me. And he goes, what did I do wrong? And we went, put on my shin guards, came back. Nobody knew nothing about nothing.
All right. Until today, Dan, now the truth is revealed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I tell you. Well, I've told the story to the high school group, and even my signer, he said, what you do is if that happens, you stop right there, go right to that coach by third base and say, I have a equipment malfunction. And they don't know. It could be it could be a strap in the back, and then come back out. He says, that's how you handle that. He says, you don't finish the half inning.
That's probably the better advice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, young man, whoever that catcher was in front of you.
Took care of me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm continuing to read some of the notes that you shared with me, Dan, before our discussion here today. And you've already mentioned once the transition between high school and community college when you started back in the 07, 08, somewhere around there. And you said specifically, Dan, that really upgraded your skills on the big field. So obviously the level of play is higher, but what specifically changed for you between the high school experience and the community college experience from an umpiring perspective?
It's pretty serious baseball at that level.
Yeah.
I mean, the coaches, their job is on the line.
Sure.
If they don't win ball games. We're in the high school level, he could be a math teacher, and he's still there.
Sure.
But those coaches, their job is on the line. So they don't want you to make any mistakes, of course. And we know we make them. I mean, you know how coaches are. Very first game of the season, they want you to be absolutely perfect and then improve from that point on. So it's just I found that getting the respect from the coaches took longer than high school work. Even the ones that I thought I was good with, one little strange thing happening in a baseball game and they came out screaming sometimes. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Dan, one of my recent guests was Liz Hammerschmidt, who's an NCAA D1 softball umpire. Yeah, she was terrific. And she told me something about her experience that was interesting to me. She said that the coaches that she works with, they've already done their research on her.
Oh, yeah.
To find out where she's coming from, what her tendencies are, I would imagine. Did you ever find that when you were working at the community college level, or do you think that that's something that is maybe just one level up from there?
No, I think they do that in high school too now, because all of our games are scheduled on the Arbiter. Do you guys use Arbiter?
We do.
For scheduling? Okay.
Yeah. And
coaches can see who's assigned for that ball game.
Sure.
And they can do whatever research they want from that point on. So, I think they do their homework on that to find out about you, your experience. Are you a rookie? Or have you done playoffs? That type of thing. So, it can make a difference on your interaction with the coach during that game.
Sure. And sometimes at that plate meeting, you get a sense one way or the other, I bet.
I remember I really screwed up at one plate meeting at college level. It was San Francisco Community College against somebody, but it wasn't at their field. That year their field was being redone, so it was done at this other park that's just a neutral field.
Okay.
And I went to it, and I guess my mind went crazy or something would happen at the plate meeting, but I looked at both coaches. I said, who's the home team?
Yeah.
What do you mean you don't know who the home team is? Oh, didn't start that one too well.
Lesson learned.
Yeah, exactly. We got to do our homework first too before a game. Definitely. I look up the coaches, their first names, if I don't know them, so that I can greet them with a good handshake and a first name basis from the get-go.
Doesn't that just make all the difference? I know you're going to agree with this. Just getting to know a coach by first name, shaking the hand, demonstrating the respect, and you're already starting on the right foot. And this is true from Little League all the way up to college and the pros. No question.
Absolutely. And I like it when they call me by my first name too. So we both know who we are and what our jobs are, but we both respect each other. I like that.
Do you extend that to catchers that you work with? Do you
Oh
prefer
yeah,
to be on a first name basis with your catchers?
yes, I do.
Yeah.
Right after coming down,
Yep.
and I brush the plate. I put out my hand. I shake that catcher's hand. I say, "I'm Dan,"
Yep.
and he tells me his name. I said, "Hey, we'll work great together." I do that in front of everybody right then and there, right after I sweep the plate.
I have the exact same habit, and I need to write them down on my card.
I do.
I need to make absolutely sure because I feel
With
like
their
I'll
number,
just
because you see their number more than anything.
exactly.
Yeah, I do too.
It's just so easy to skip it over and go through the motions, and before you know it, you're walking back and putting your mask on and thinking, I don't know what this kid just told me.
Yes,
it can go that fast.
I do the same thing. I wait till the half inning to write it down, though. I don't do it right after he tells
there
me.
you go. Optics.
I just keep his name fresh in my mind for at least 3 outs and then write it down. Works good. In fact, at the high school level, you get 8 pitches from the beginning. From that point on, it's 5 maximum, from second inning on down. And I say, "Hey, Joe, 5," as he walks up, 5 pitches maximum. You control it. And I walk away. Now, I never have to do 2 more because I said, "You control it." And he knows I'm in charge of this.
Oh, I like that.
It's a great tip. Yeah.
I'm stealing that one, Dan.
Yeah, take it.
I'm stealing it.
Yeah,
I've been in the habit of saying 2 more. I think that comes from Little League, where we have to have a little more direct control over things.
Mm-hmm.
But that is fantastic. I bet 95% of the catchers you tell that to step up to the challenge of taking responsibility.
They take care of it. They take care of it, and works great.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. Keep bringing those, man. I'm taking notes for myself here. This is a very helpful podcast episode we're making right now, Dan. So, Dan, let me ask you a little bit more about your game. We're kind of getting into the weeds here a little bit, some fine details, which is awesome about how you work games. What kind of umpire are you on the high school and the college field when you were working those games? What would those coaches tell me after they've played a game where you're working the plate for them?
Yeah, well, the first thing is so important, as you know. If you're just a 2-man crew, you walk out together before the game, and you walk out with purpose. You could still be smiling because you're happy to be there without laughing, but and dress sharply, cleanly, pressed, shiny shoes. You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
That's the first reaction, because if a coach doesn't know you, players don't know you, fans probably don't. They're watching. Their eyes are on the 2 umpires walking on the field. Anything else going on doesn't matter, and you know that they are watching you. So how you carry yourself up to that first part in the plate meeting, I think is extremely important to set the tone of how you're going to manage the ball game without being over ego. You don't have to be. You could be calm about everything, slow it down a bit, and they can see the respect from the get-go, I think, how you treat them.
And Dan, you're still involved, aren't you, with training and instructing some of the local high school umpires in your area? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, the organization I'm with, I've been a trainer, one of the umpire trainers in the group every year for probably at least the last 10 years. The training I like, maybe because I was a teacher for all those years too, so I like doing it. I like helping young umpires or new umpires, young or old.
On a year-by-year basis, how many brand new guys and gals do you have coming out to join up with your high school association, roughly?
There's an interesting turnover. So it's funny you mentioned, there's about 80 in our group, and probably, it could be 15 come and go during a given, for whatever reason, move out, job, I don't know. And sometimes, we miss some of those very experienced umpires that have to leave for whatever reason.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's what I'm really watching, those new guys come in.
In your first year of high school, you were noticed and you got a few varsity games and even that playoff game.
Yeah.
So what are you now looking for, Dan, when you work with those new umpires, those 12, 15 new umpires per year? What are the things that catch your eye that then have you going to them and having conversations about moving up or getting more opportunities quickly?
Yeah, I think I look a lot at hustle. I think that's really important. Um, Even before a game, if I'm on first base, if I got the bases, I got the field. After our plate meeting, and I give a bump to my plate guy, I hustle. I don't walk. I can walk. The guy's got 8 pitches, but I hustle to my spot. In fact, I go a little further towards the outfield, just to kind of loosen up a little bit and stretch a little bit more, and then come back to my position. But hustle is important to me. I don't like laziness at all on the field. It's our job to hustle. When I break up something at the pitcher's mound, a meeting, I'm going to beat the catcher, or at least stay with him to the plate. I'm not going to let him get ahead of me. And so I think that's important. So I look for that on the new umpires, and I tell them how important that is. People are watching you the entire game. You don't get a chance to go in the dugout every half inning like the players do. We're still out there. So how you look, how you put your hands, all that stuff is rather important. So I do look for hustle. I look for I can see which guys like this and are going to improve. Okay. During a weekend clinic, I can see an improvement. I go, this guy's going to be good. So when I see a young umpire actually listen, improve, do what we tell them to do, and I see them do that through that weekend clinic, I keep my eye on him and say, I want to work with him in a game. That's what I want to do. Yeah. And I ask my sider, go ahead. Yeah, put me on a game with him. He's new, and I want to work with him.
Well, and lucky for that umpire to have that opportunity with you and some of the other veteran umpires that you work with.
It's all fun. Yeah. I love working with everybody.
I agree with you. You can see that spark sometimes, can't you?
Yeah.
And that's so nice to see, because we all have the same problem. We're all looking for umpires everywhere we can get them. So when you see that little spark in somebody, boy, you got to pounce on it, don't you? Yes,
you do. Yeah. You want his name, and you want to tell him, hey, you're looking good out there. Yeah. You're doing the job.
This podcast has been fun, Dan, and maybe you've heard on a couple prior episodes. I always chuckle when I hear an umpire tell a story of his or her first conversation with maybe a mentor or a veteran umpire. And this person will say, I just said, hey, I'm thinking about checking out umpiring. And next thing you know, they're giving them gear, they're telling them what field to go work on, and they're wishing them good luck. That's just such a common tale for all of us.
I got one on that story, if you want to hear it.
I wonder which side of that story you're on.
Well, I can remember when my wife was working at a bank, and the branch manager, she would notice around 3:30 in the afternoon, he'd go to the men's room and come out with an umpire uniform, and off he'd go. So she asked him what's going on, and he says he's a little league umpire. And he says, "Is your husband, does he do baseball or anything?" And she says, "Well, he coached for quite a while, but right now, no." And he says, "Well, have him come by and watch me. I'm going to do a game in your league close to your house tonight. Have him watch me." So we went, and I watched him. And I told my wife, I said, "I think I want to do this now. I want to give back. I know for sure. I want to get back. I want to get into it again and get trained and do it right." So he took me under his wing. His name's Chuck Lautrop, and he was my first mentor, and him and another guy named Bill Stone. But Chuck took me, he said, I'm going to put you on the schedule, Dan. Me and you, 2 games a week, Tuesday and Thursday, Cambrian Park Little League. It's you and me. So the first 2 games, I did the bases, and he did the plate. And the following week, the first game, he said, "Dan, here's my equipment. Put it on, and you're doing the plate tonight." Oh, boy. So I did the plate. And then after that evening, we're having our post game. He says, he gives me this catalog. At that time, umpire catalog. It was Plus Pause in the old days. That was a
Uh-huh.
pretty big one in those days.
Yep.
He says, get out your credit card, buy yourself some equipment. And by the way, you see these plate shoes of mine? They're just almost brand new. He says, I've only used them twice. So when you order all your equipment, order some plate shoes, but order size 10 for me. These are going to be yours. And I said, well, what size? They were too small for him. I said, well, what size are they? He goes, they're just your size. That was my first mentor. We had fun. We did lots of games together, and
That's great.
But that's how I started.
And that was the beginning for you.
Yeah, it was.
Like so many of the rest of us, somehow we just find ourselves falling into this thing, and for you, 30 plus years later, here we are having this conversation.
Yeah, it's kind of neat because I've had quite a few mentors in the various levels, and now I'm kind of a mentor to many umpires. I like that. That's good.
Do you think that has to do with your background as an educator? At least partially, right?
Partially, yes. I was a teacher for 20 years and then an academic counselor for 19 years. And I finished my job as head counselor at a local high school. Okay. Great job. I wouldn't take anything away from my career. Yeah, it's been great. Don't regret it. I actually get a pretty good pension and I can't complain. There's not too many jobs that have that anymore,
That's
so
true.
It's all good.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And the other part, I want to hear your thoughts on this, Dan, because I've heard you say this phrase 2 or 3 times now already, and that is the idea of giving back. Mm-hmm. Several times over the course of your career, and as you started umpiring and as you continued, you said, I want to give back. That's what you said to yourself. And just talk to me a little bit about that component, will you? Because that's an area that I'm personally very interested about. I look at umpiring as a service, as a public service, and so many of us do. I sense that you're cut from the same cloth. So can you talk about what it means to you to give back?
Yeah, I think when I was coaching my boys when they were in Little League Baseball, I was fortunate. They took me as the manager, and when it become a major manager for Little League, 11, 12-year-olds, I mean, I had to go through a interview process, with the board and all that stuff.
Good.
And they liked me. And so since I was so fortunate to be able to manage my kids, my 2 boys, going through Little League Baseball, and a little bit after that, not too much after, but a little bit after that, it kind of, that's when I first put the seed in there. I think I want to give back as a volunteer. One way or the other, I'm not sure which, is it field maintenance, the guy that does a barbecue, I don't know, but I'm going to give back to Little League as a community service, just as you said.
Yes.
And then I found that umpiring is the right spot. I mean, heck, we got the best seat in the house at every single ball game if you're doing the plate. So I found umpiring was my niche, and got a lot of training, and I'm a trainer now. So I give back to Little League. It's all volunteer. I give back to the high school, being an instructor and a mentor, I guess, for the younger ones, and found my spot in college for about 8 years. I stopped doing college after 2014 because, I started slowing down, I guess, a little bit, my hustle, because I could be on the field, first base umpire, and a guy hits one in the gap. I'm taking the shortcut, and he's beating me to third base. So, maybe this is, maybe I shouldn't do this one anymore. I don't know. I do miss working. I do miss working with the college instructors or college umpires, because they up your game. Yeah, they're good. They're good on their pre and post games, and they just ups you up a next level. It really is good for that.
Yeah.
In fact, by doing college, now that I do just high school and Little League, I feel so confident all the time doing a high school game. I don't care what level it is, because I've done the next one up before.
Yeah.
So it's a good feeling. Yeah. I like to give back. It's and training is my best way, and also just being on the field with umpires, experienced or inexperienced ones. I just enjoy working with all levels, so I give back that way too.
Well, Dan, let's start talking a little 2012 here. And as you mentioned, you had quite a year.
It was.
You had quite a year, my friend. And one of the highlights of your year, it's amazing that this was just one of the highlights of that year for you, was being selected to work at the Little League Baseball World Series in Williamsport. And boy, this is a podcast in itself, of course, but
Yeah.
can you share some of your memories about that tournament? And then of course, tell us about your final 2 games that you worked that year.
Sure. What's interesting is to get to that tournament, you have to do the regional first.
Yes.
And I did the Western region in 1999. And so I was on the list. Only have one person on the list in our district for 13 straight years. My DA's,
Wow.
batting for me every time. And I figured maybe it's coming up soon, and then maybe not. I don't know. I did a Juniors World Series in 06 in Taylor, Michigan, and that was great.
Yeah.
But in 2012, my name really didn't come up that year. A lot of people don't know. The guy from Asia couldn't make it. And so he got back to Little League. And so Little League says, well, let's give it to Western Region. So about the time when the Western Region director got note that they could nominate instead of 2 that year, 3.
Okay.
They already had their 2.
Yeah.
My DA, I think, was on the phone with her at that time, or just about that time.
Yeah.
And she said, well, what about my guy? And she goes, yeah, okay, let's let Dan do it. He's good. Yeah, he'll be great. And so I got my letter 2 or 3 weeks later than everybody else. And the letter thing is a whole story in itself.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Now, Dan, wait a second. You couldn't have been expecting that because the crews had already been selected, right?
Yeah.
Oh my
I didn't
goodness.
know anything about what happened until I was told later that the guy from Asia couldn't make it that year. So work related or something. So I was like an add-on, so to speak. So I go in there and to trip to Williamsport, and I decided to visit my sister first in Washington, D.C. area. Stayed at her house for about 3 days to get my time acclimated, the 3 hours and all that, sleep and all that. Drove up from there, rented a car to Williamsport, saw that part of the country, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
I almost got a speeding ticket at a speeding trap downhill, and I talked to the officer, and he says, "Oh, Williamsport, you're going there?" And I told him I was umpiring coming up next week, and he said, I used to live in Williamsport. I used to go to the World Series all the time as a kid. And I gave him my umpire pin, one of my Little League World Series. And he said, I'll get somebody else there. So,
I love it.
So drove up to Williamsport.
Score 1 for the umpires.
Yeah. And to finally see those 16 guys that you've been emailing with for the past 3 or 4 months, to finally see them and meet together, that's wonderful. We exchanged some gifts and so on. I had the first game, and I didn't want to do the first game behind the plate because they had like 14 pages of scenarios of all their challenges, situations. And I read it over many times because we got it early, a month early. And even that night, I was reading it in the hotel room, and I fell asleep. Papers were all over it. But I'm glad I had game 1. Now, in retrospect, I did a really good job, I think. I had a lot of people in the stands, my umpire friends, and some other people say, Dan, you set the bar. You did a great job. You had a great game, and I did. But then, so the way that works out, the coordinators are very good about trying to give you 2 plates, 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, 2 lefts, and 2 right field lines. And it depends who's playing. When Petaluma, California team is playing, I'm watching in the stands.
Yeah.
That's the rules. And we all know that going into this stuff. So everybody is getting kind of their second plate, except for a few guys. And I'm one of the few guys. I figure either I really screwed up or they are saving me. It's one or the other.
Right.
So the problem is Petaluma was still in it in the U.S. championship game against Tennessee. So they gave me the international final plate. And I was happy as can be to get that. That was just great. And I can remember after the game, bringing all my equipment out of the locker, taking it to the hotel, cleaning it off, letting it dry on the bed, and going back that night to watch the U.S. Championship game, Petaluma, Tennessee. Well, I don't know if you remember that game. It was 40 runs. But
I don't. Oh, my goodness.
After 6 innings, at the bottom of the 6th, Petaluma was behind by 10 runs. And then Petaluma started to rally, and they couldn't get him out.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
double, and home run, and double. Before you know it, there was a guy in third, and the score was tied. They got 10 runs in the bottom of the 6th with a guy in third. Well, they finally got the third out. They went to the 7th inning. Poor Petaluma ran out of pitching by then, and Tennessee still hit. And they ended up winning the game in the 7th inning. And I looked at my wife. I said, maybe I'll get the right field line or something tomorrow.
Yeah.
Maybe not. It's okay. I did the championship international plate today. Who knows? Because Petaluma's out. Well, they had a big meeting that night, the poopahs of Little League and ESPN and all that stuff. And I got the call for the plate again for the final game. I don't think it's been done in modern times. For
What
somebody
a shock that must have been.
It was a shock to me. I think it was a shock to my 16 umpire crew.
Well,
but that game only went 5 innings. I think the first game was my best, my favorite of all. But that game only went 5 innings because Japan 10-runned them by then. And I'm looking at these posters. I got these 24 by 36 posters of me, Little League World Series. I got 3 of them in the office here at home. And I think about it every day, Jason. Every day I think about the Little League World Series. And I will for the rest of my life. I know it.
Congrats. What a great week. Well, week plus. And man, so great. And you just are so happy for every umpire brother and sister that gets that call every year. And to all of the World Series and regional tournaments as well. It's such a joyous time. You mentioned your letter. We've talked about other umpires' letters on this show, and you and I have both heard so many stories from our friends and partners. Good stuff. It's really good stuff.
It's wonderful.
Let's wrap this up with just one question, and I'm just going to indulge myself here, Dan. I have a question for myself that I'd like to ask you. I'm less than 10 years into my umpiring career, and I'd like to keep on going with this thing for a long, long time. What do I need to know? I'm an umpire that loves it. I take it seriously. I try to do my very best every single game, no matter what level, like you've described. I feel like I'm pretty good at what I do for being the level that I'm at as an amateur umpire. But what do I need to do now to keep on doing this and keep on serving for another 20, 25 years? What advice would you give me?
You got to be involved. If we're talking, let's say Little League first, you got to be involved in your local Little League. Maybe the chief umpire of the district. That's what I am for the past 20 years. Your DA gets to know you real well because the DA, he or she, puts recommendations out for regionals and for World Series, and you work yourself up the ladder. You get noticed. So that part is important. Networking with a lot of umpires at all different levels is important. Just talking, having a beer with them, after a game, or seeing one at a minor league game, and you're talking. All the networking part is important because there are so many good umpires out there. I mean, there are so many, and for you to be alone selected for this regional or this World Series or this playoff games at college level or whatever it's going to be, it's like, that you're good, but there's others that are just as good or better. And it's part luck, it really is. In my case, it was. one of my sayings that I go by is life is timing. I just don't mean timing when you're calling balls and strikes. It's mean the right place at the right time with the right people, I guess. Timing helps. Yeah, it's a whole package.
We'll keep on doing that. We'll keep on doing that in person and every so often on a podcast over Skype like we're doing right now.
Sure.
Let's hope that you and I, Dan, as we talked about offline, can run into one another in person next year.
Yeah.
When we both will be spending a little time on Little League fields down in your area in the summertime. Mm-hmm. That would be a great joy. So I certainly hope that will happen. And I just thank you again, Dan. This has been a lot of fun to learn about your journey. And I have a strong sense that if we could go another 4.5 hours, that you could fill it for me.
Probably could.
We'll save that for another time, or maybe for the lunch in person next summer. What do you say?
I like it. Sounds good, Jason. I appreciate being on the show. It's really good.
Well, thank you for everything that you've shared with us today. And hey, take care of yourself. We'll see you next time. Okay, Dan?
Thank you so much.
Well, there you have it for today. So nice to spend a little time with a guy like Dan. 70 years young and still going strong with so much to share and to give back to umpiring. I think you heard in our chat that I picked up a few nice little tips today. Maybe you did too. And certainly a good bit of inspiration to continue to press on and give it everything I've got, both on the field and with the umpires that come into my life. So yeah, that was great. Dan, thank you for inspiring me today. And thank you, dear listeners, for listening today. The Umpire Inspire podcast, it's for you. And I'd love to hear any feedback or comments you have on the show or on our guests. Send me a short note anytime at jason@umpireinspire.com or message me over on the Umpire Inspire Facebook page. I really like getting to know you all, and I feel so fortunate to have met so many cool people through this show. It's been awesome. Okay, one final note before we sign off for today. I would like to send out my thanks to Mark Hood, who joined the Umpire Inspire crew this week by becoming a contributor on Patreon. Patreon is a way for folks to directly support artists and creators that they love. And so if you haven't yet, you can visit umpireinspire.com/support to find out about the rewards you can earn by becoming a contributor and why this show is listener supported. I hope you all have a terrific week, and I'll see you next time on the Umpire Inspire podcast.